The Accuracy International PM Precision Marksman Rifle was entered into British competition in the early 1980s as a replacement for the outdated Lee Enfield-derived sniper rifles. The Accuracy International was selected over the Parker Hale M85. The British Army adopted the Accuracy International PM in 1982 with the designation L96A1. Some years later, the Swedish military were also on the hunt for a new rifle, and in the early 1990s, the Accuracy International entered in as an upgraded version of the PM known as the AW or Arctic Warfare. This was the start of the Arctic Warfare name, which would become the primary name of the rifle family despite their earlier names. The rifle now featured a special de-icing feature which allows it to be used effectively at temperatures as low as -40 degrees Celsius. The stock hole, bolt, magazine release, and trigger guard on the AW are large enough to facilitate the use of heavy Arctic mittens. This version was accepted into the use by the Swedish Army in 1991 as the PSG-90. These modifications to the original PM or the L96A1 made the British Army decide to adopt the new improved Arctic Warfare version as well, designating it the L118A. After a great many changes over the years, it has evolved into something amazing, the Arctic Warfare Super Magnum, or by its military designation, the L115A3. A weapon that fires a .338 Lapua Magnum round. That is the rifle the Ares is based off of. It was also the weapon system that currently holds the longest shot, successfully beating out Rob Furlong and his Macmillan TAC-50 by a British sniper named Craig Harrison, with not one kill, but 2 consecutive kills at ranges out to 2,707 yards. Once you receive your rifle from your supplier, you will be greeted by a very bland, brown, massive cardboard box, with its small, discreet Ares logos on the top and side, clearly stating what weapon is inside. In this case, the MSR-007, and I must reiterate, this box is absolutely massive, being the rifle's complete length with the stock in its unfolded position. I had my rifle shipped to me from eHobby Asia. The box itself received no damage, meaning that you probably won't have to worry about your weapon's safety during shipping. When you open the box, you will be faced with the traditional Ares dark gray foam. This foam having absolutely no problems with holding the weapon securely inside. It was almost a challenge for me to remove it the first time, with each individual component of the rifle having its own cutout, with no chances of scratches or wear and tear to the individual components during shipping. In the video, you see that I have left the scope mounted onto the rifle. I left it this way because I already have the scope zeroed and I really don't feel like doing it again. But just for informational purposes, the scope mount will be located here. Inside the box, you will get a black and white folded piece of paper. Some would call it the manual, but really, we all know what it is. It's a piece of paper they folded really small. Inside of this piece of paper, however, is a very detailed, exploded view of the weapon to know where every part goes. A long, old-style mag loading tube. In my own personal opinion, this is a completely pointless addition. I know it doesn't show it in the video, but it already broke, and I never even used it. So, in my opinion, pointless. Just use a regular speed loader. 1 70-round box magazine. Yes, that is what I said, magazine. Not the little thing you put into the front of the weapon. This, in my opinion, makes the weapon. There are drawbacks to this, however, which I will explain later in the video. A 6-position spring ejecting bipod with mount to clip firmly onto the front of the AW338. It is made out of a very strong metal with strong springs. When the bipod is open, it is held open by a spring and has the ability to turn left and right at about 5 degrees. A 30mm scope mount, made of the same aluminum as the rest of the rifle. It has plastic inserts that drop the diameter of the mount to about 20 millimeters, but seeing as I don't use that, I lost them. This scope mount is proprietary to the AW338 and will not fit on standard 20 millimeter rails. And of course, the AW338 itself. Now it is time to begin the review of this weapon and its features. I better start with the parts that aren't metal. Even though they aren't metal, they're still made of a high quality nylon polymer. This gun is a beast of metal goodness and is very deceptively so. Some of the parts of this weapon that aren't metal include the butt pad, which is made of a semi-soft rubber, the outer body shell, which is a high quality nylon polymer, the stock extensions, made of the same polymer as the rest of the outer body shell, the cheek riser, again made of polymer. The stock collapse button is plastic. The safety select is plastic. The knob at the end of the bolt lever is plastic. The BB feed ramp is plastic, and the magazine internals are plastic, but the magazine shell is metal. Now it is time for the metal parts. All metal parts of this rifle are made of 6063 aluminum, which add to the rifle's impressive weight of 11.8 pounds. I can only attest to the external components of this rifle as I have yet to take it apart. Anyways, here I go. The metal parts include flash hider cap, flash hider, barrel end adapter, outer barrel, upper receiver, bolt and assembly, scope mount, sling swivels, magwell, trigger box and trigger, stock lock nub, stock swivel assembly, inner body which runs the complete length of the gun itself and lies beneath the polymer portions of the weapon, the stock inner body, and the rear monopod. Details count when you buy a weapon. You want it to be the most basic thing you can bring out onto the field, right? Well, the AW338 has yet to disappoint in my opinion. I have yet to see someone that doesn't like this rifle, and on more than one occasion have had it mistaken for a gas weapon. I have had the chance to game the VSR-10 clones. I found myself feeling lacking when hefting their lightweight, cheap plastic of the VSR-M700 clone that I owned. And in my opinion, I felt like I was playing with a toy. The magazine in the position that it was just didn't do it for me. I had also owned a Snowwolf Barrett M99, which had the APS-2 type internals, and don't get me wrong, this weapon had head-turning factor that I liked. And the fact that it had a good heft, but cheap-feeling plastic APS type magazines were troublesome, and I found that I didn't live up to its Barrett potential that I think it could have. Coming back to the Aries, this weapon is internally a VSR-10, which doesn't bother me in the slightest, meaning that options to upgrade are almost limitless. Externally, the build quality is impressive, detailing the weapon right down to the individual serial number and the small British crown on the side of the rifle. The lack of the 20mm Picatinny rail was disappointing, but the 3/8 dovetail mount works perfectly. There is a long seam where the two plastic halves meet. I have been told that this is similar to the real weapon, so this doesn't bother me either. The folding stock disengages at the press of a button and clicks in securely to the side of the weapon. To bring it back, just give it a quick pull and it will click back in securely to the weapon itself with absolutely zero wobble. Although, I have had an experience with this in-game after attaching a sling to the sling swivel located by the release button where the sling would disengage the stock. Aries and its innovative ways have come out with their own BB loading system, which in my opinion works brilliantly. Instead of using a single blade to pick up the round and push it up into the chamber, breaking the weapon's seal, it uses just the magazine spring to force the BBs up a loading ramp towards the rifle itself. Now, I'm not going to say that this system is perfect. There are some issues that I would like to address. With the magazine inserted with a full load of BBs, you cannot remove it. Now that is not so much of an issue, but it will mean that you'll have to store it with a full load of BBs. Also, when the magazine is empty and you have it removed, do not think that your rifle is safe to fire. About 20 BBs will remain inside the loading ramp at any given time, so be cautious of this so you do not have any negligent discharges. I will now show you how to empty it. My other gripe comes with the magazine itself. Yes, aesthetically it's a piece of art, and yes, it holds 70 rounds, so reloading it is almost a non-issue for ammo-cautious snipers. But if you plan on owning more than one magazine at any point, my issue is with the way it feeds into the weapon. With the push of a button on the top of the magazine, it is very sensitive, and more than one occasion I have found myself with a face full of BBs after it emptied the whole magazine. Cycling this weapon could have never been easier, when the stock spring pushes out a round at close to 450 feet per second. It is a bonus when it is this easy to cycle, and kudos to Aries for this. Also, something else that I have found more than handy on the field is the bolt-ready indication nut that sits a little further out than the rear of the bolt to show you when the weapon is cocked and ready to go. The Aries MSR-007 is a great weapon platform at a mid-range price level, and I would easily recommend it to anyone. For looks, weight, feel, accuracy, comfort, and ease of use, I have to give this rifle an 8 out of 10, the only drawbacks being with the magazine, in my opinion. Having only to shell out $540 for this weapon with the optic I have mounted on makes it, in my opinion, a very good platform to have. So if you're considering a new sniper rifle, make sure you consider the Aries MSR-006, 7, or 8 in your own choices of their respective colors. This video has been made possible by Team VRA, Nova Scotia Airsoft, and Aries Hong Kong. Thank you for watching, and happy airsoft.